it feels good to be a gangster. Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
The author of this article, Mr. Ben Go, is a Chinese Malaysian law professor working in Australia. The article focuses on cross-cultural communication pitfalls that occur between Chinese and Western negotiators. Many broken negotiations can be attributed to perception, because our reality is framed by underlying assumptions and habits. The negotiating differences between Chinese and Western cultures occur primarily because of the collectivist versus individualist differences between the two. The Chinese are a culture of collectivists, following the teachings of Confucius. They focus on gift-giving, subtle hints, and persuasion. Westerners, by contrast, typically prefer an aggressive, confrontational and demanding style. Cross-cultural mistakes can be very costly. It helps to be familiar with the other culture when beginning the negotiation. For example, exchange of business cards is a ritual and communication. Information contained on your business card alerts your Chinese counterpart of the order of behavior in a hierarchical sense. The meal is the best negotiation facilitator from the Chinese perspective. Meals are fertile grounds for cultivating social ties and deepening interpersonal bonds. For example, it is customary for the collectivist Chinese to insist on paying the bill when they invite someone for a meal. Westerners are often perplexed by this, but it is an example of the Chinese interest in looking after members of the group to promote harmony. Westerners tend to think that business and pleasure do not mix. The Chinese, on the contrary, ironed out much of the deadlock and stalemate in the dining room. Generally speaking, the Chinese neither like to give or take no for an answer. The word no comes across as a socially offensive word, causing one to lose face. Consequently, ambiguity in communication is favored. Therefore, the best way to determine whether your Chinese counterpart is declining your offer is to consult an intermediary who can interpret their words and actions. As you can see, some people take beating about the bush more literally than others. The relational nature of Chinese people promotes gift-giving behavior. Gifts can express the desire for friendship. Beware giving culturally inappropriate gifts. For example, white flowers indicate death in Chinese culture. Also, a clock signifies the end or termination. Both of these gifts will insult your Chinese counterparts. Gifts can also be used for 1Z connections, which is what Westerners call bribery. It is common for Westerners to forget about a business encounter once its particular purpose has been accomplished. However, because the Chinese believe in long-term goals, relationships are maintained over a considerable period of time. As such, they deem it important to keep in contact. For the Chinese, old friends are like vintage wine, better than new. The Chinese, as a general rule, are patient people. Patience is a highly regarded virtue. For the Chinese, the decision-making process is collective and time-consuming. Westerners, who are accustomed to things here and now, can get easily frustrated by the wait. The notion of saving face is very important in all cultures. However, for the Chinese, this interest is both self-related and other-related. For example, the Chinese are inclined toward preserving the face of the other party before their own. This is in contrast with the typical Western interest in protecting his or her own face rather than their counterparts. This is another demonstration of collectivist versus individualist values. The Chinese are used to a socially hierarchical structure. In the Western cultures, each person is regarded as equal. Use of the first name in the Western cultures is the norm, whereas use of titles in business dealings is of the utmost importance to the Chinese. It is important for Westerners to realize that the Chinese are used to long-term views and have experienced a civilization that spans over 5 millennia. Tradition is highly valued and most of the rituals are preserved. Respecting cultural differences is not merely important, but crucial. Warning: the makers of this video are not responsible for undesirable outcomes to negotiations undertaken with the advice provided, including laughter, mocking, scorn, or practical jokes thrust upon you by your Chinese counterparts. No Chinese, Westerners, or animals were harmed in the making of this film. All rights may or may not be reserved. To be honest, we're just not sure.
Tonight I'll dream while I'm in bed, when silly thoughts go through my head about the bugs and alphabet. When I wake tomorrow, I'll bet that you and I will walk together again. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. Yes, I can tell that we are gonna be friends.